Major funding for these broadcasts is made possible by grants from New York Community Bank, Capital One Bank, M&T Bank, Customers Bank, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Perfect Building Maintenance, Genova Burns, Terra CRG. Additional support is made possible by AKA Hotels Corman Communities, Aerial Property Advisors, AVR Realty Company, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Bank Leumi USA, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Citizens Bank, Collins Building Services, Colliers International NYC, Connect One Bank, CPEX Real Estate Services, Cushman & Wakefield, DDG, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, Eastern Union Funding, Fisher Brothers, First Nationwide Title Agency, Flushing Bank, Friedman, Handler Real Estate Organization, HAP Investments, Hersha Hospitality, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Madison Realty Capital, Matone Group, Mercantile Commerce Bank, Meridian Capital Group, New Banks, Newmark Grubb Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rosewood Realty Group, SJP Properties, Sterling National Bank, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, The Continuum Company, the Moynihan Group, and these friends.
$2.3 million people live in this borough. 168, at least 168 different dialects. Great subway system, great transportation. Lots of buildings being built all over. People are moving their offices to Queens. It's Queens, it's Queens. So today, with the help of a couple of people here, I've assembled a group of dynamic leaders to tell us what's happening in Queens. My guests today include Josh Zegan, who is the co-founder and managing member of Madison Realty Capital. David Brous, who's the president of Brous Realty. Comedy Pundit, who is the managing director of the Criterion Group. Alexander Durst, who is the chief development officer at the Durst Organization. And last but never least, Alan Suna, who is the CEO of Silvercup Studios and the principal at Silvercup Properties. So, in reality, I'm not sure, who's the first person in Queens or who's the last. But we know that you and Mr. Brous have been there a long time. And you've been with me over the past 15 seasons many times. Mm-hmm. So what is making people like the Durst Organization, the Criterion Group, Madison Realty Capital go to Queens?
You're asking me?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm asking the camera.
No, it's it's to some extent it's market compression. There are more and more people wanting to live and work in New York than ever before. The housing stock and even the office stock is not increasing to keep up with demand. The prices in Manhattan are not affordable to most people, and so what's happening is that New York. And it's not just Queens, but New York is becoming a five-borough city all over again, which is really kind of wonderful. What I mean by that is that it's activity, mixed socioeconomic levels and different groups, and frankly, it's wonderful to see. And Long Island City, in particular, because of its transportation network, has made it easier for people, developers, to build new housing and soon new offices, in order to accommodate this kind of demand.
Alexander, you're a fourth-generation family business. Everything has been in Manhattan. Why Queens? What happened?
Queens is a very attractive place for us. As Alan mentioned, there is market compression, and part of that is that it is too difficult to afford to build rental housing in Manhattan, where we have typically developed. So we came across this location, and it turned out to be the right transaction at the right time for us. We weren't specifically looking in Queens. We were introduced to the project, and given all that is going on there and the other parameters of the deal, it looked like it was a very good transaction for
Now,
us.
one of the things that the Durst organization has always been, builders, I mean, on 42nd Street and other properties throughout the city, you've built a lot of offices. And then over the last couple of years with the Helena and the other property that you're building on 57th Street and also on 6th Avenue, you're building rental. How do you decide to make a decision to do rental in Queens?
Well, we have typically been office developers, and given the amount of office that is coming online in Manhattan between the West Side Rail Yards and downtown and One Vanderbilt Place, we don't see that it would be a good idea to build more office in Manhattan. So we are looking actively for rental residential development projects.
Our young lady over here, how do you people over the last couple of years come from a small little company to be one of the most active developers of residential in Queens?
We actually started out in Queens about 14 years ago. The owner started with 8-unit buildings, and now we're about 2.5 million in our pipeline of development. So I think it's just a matter of knowing
So what
the area.
what are you building and where are you building? Because as I alluded at the beginning of the show, one of the important things, one of the virtues of Queens is transportation. Now,
Right.
one of the, Alexander's property is, it's a great location, but one of the difficulties right now is transportation. But they've had that circumstance even on 57th Street, and you can take care of that by shuttles and other amount.
Right.
But talk to me about some of the projects you're doing in Queens.
So we have a couple. Most are actually very transit-oriented. One being a block away from the 7 and G trains in Long Island City, another right at the Queensboro train stop, which is the 7 N and Q. And then we do have one actually nearby the Durst site, which between buses that are actually part of public transit and potentially shuttle system, we hope to make very transit accessible.
David and his family have owned the Brewster building for how many years?
1980,
And, the building was built,
1911.
1911. One of the things that has happened in all 5 boroughs is the use of, bicycles and even other car-sharing services. How, in your properties and also in yours over there, do you bicycle access?
Sure. City Bike just created 11 new City Bike stations in Long Island City proper area, Court Square, the Waterfront, and Queens Plaza. Each of our buildings is within a block or two of City Bike Station. I see a huge influx of people that are now learning about Long Island City because they're able to bike around. It used to be that the people on the waterfront didn't really come to Court Square, the people on Court Square didn't go up to Queens Plaza. Now it's literally a 3 or 4 minute bike ride to get to the waterfront from our Court Square buildings that we're building. It's a great way to try out new restaurants, go shopping, go to the supermarket. There's baskets in front of your City Bike. It's a great opportunity. So I fully expect that they'll get up to Astoria and make that that commute a much nicer commute to get to the subway and back.
Now, we're talking about Astoria, we're talking about Long Island City, and Josh has done both deals as a developer and a lender in other parts of Queens. Let's talk about some of them.
Flushing was an area that we recapitalized a number of distressed deals in 2010 and 11, and really watched that market emerge. It's a great retail kind of corridor today. A lot of the condos that we were underwriting at $550, $600 a foot 4 years ago are now selling for $900, $800, $1,000, $1,200 with the property along the water there. So I've just seen a number of things happen in terms of both just an emerging market.
But now you're also doing developments in Queens besides lending on.
Well, one of the areas, there's 2 areas that we were attracted to from our debt side of the business. One, we were a lender on St. John's Hospital on Queens Boulevard, and when we started to really understand the market there, looked at that as an opportunity to start buying up land on Woodside and Elmhurst because we believe that was a really cheap opportunity to play on the fact that Long Island City and various parts of Brooklyn were becoming so expensive to offer a cheaper alternative with A-class amenities. In addition, Rego Park was an area where we were a lender on a number of years ago and started to become attracted to that market also. We went to contract last week on it's about a 500,000 square foot building, 418 apartments, parking garage, some retail. We think that, again, there's an opportunity to create, even with existing product, A-class multifamily building, which will be cheaper than some of the brand new developments, offer value proposition, great retail, and great transportation.
There has been a number of industrial buildings which have been converted to office buildings. I'd say there have been about 7 of them, at least 7 buildings, and it's continuing. And some of the major developers, including Vornado, are going into this into this market. Vornado, Atlas.
We love to see it, right? Alan and I have been there for 35 years. To see Durst, Vornado, RXR, all these companies, Jamestown coming in, they are buying 500,000 to $1 million plus square foot old industrial buildings like the Brewster Building. They were all built at the turn of the century when the Queensboro Bridge came. And they are turning in these old, meaty buildings into these beautiful, creative loft office buildings for all the companies that can't afford to be in Manhattan, yet they want to be surrounded by the 8 subway lines and the 1 or 2 subway stops into Manhattan.
Which is similar to what you're doing in Brooklyn.
Yeah. And the truth is, Long Island City is relatively cheap from an office standpoint at $35 to $40 a foot kind of rents, which is sort of the typical market today, as compared to some of the downtown Brooklyn markets, which also benefit from great transportation, but at the end of the day, they're $50 a foot rents.
Yeah, we're about $10 to $15 cheaper than Brooklyn.
Don't we still have the relocation, the REAP benefits in Long Island City?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you take the REAP benefits, which basically could save you $10 to $12,
15 to
Or
20.
more.
If you
$20
stack as
rent.
many people as they are in these new loft
in
buildings.
these buildings, and especially since the use over there. Development in the city of New York has been fueled by, it's in the press all the time, and I wasn't going to really get to it, but I think it's very important, is the subject of tax credits, tax abatements, 421As, other situation.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying you're building 2,400 units over there. The first building has tax benefits.
Correct. And following that, there's an additional 6 buildings. 2 of those are smaller buildings that are 100% affordable. And then there are another 4 buildings on the waterfront, which would be all market rate. And so, but without a revised 421A tax abatement, the other buildings will not proceed. So that would be quite unfortunate. The first building will be under the expired 421A program and will have 20% affordable units in it, and but the others would be under a revised program.
Your buildings are subject to the tax abatement also?
We vested 2 that are about 900 to 1,000 units, and the other 2 will be to be determined.
Now, here's a question, and we said this prior to the show, that a number of the units that are being built in Queens, with the exception of Flushing, because of the Asian community who likes to own property, they like to own everything over there, significantly, it's of the rental exposure. You're building condominiums.
Correct.
Isn't there really a need, because people do like the ownership possibility on condominiums?
We think so, but again, without a 421A benefit, people are working, whether they're in rentals or in condos, they're working to a price point of what they can afford. And the difference of what that tax abatement does makes all the difference in the world in terms of the ability to market these units. It's significant.
Now,
And it's all going to filter down to the cost of the land.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why Alan is doing condo is because the land price has now gotten to the point where rental maybe doesn't make as much sense, so you kind of have to go to condo. But if 421A now kicks the legs out under residential development, instead of all this condo development going to happen, perhaps there will be a little pause in the market. So you'll have a lot of rental units.
What's happening, near City Field? That was supposed to be
Willets Point?
Willets Point, the development over here. What's going on with that?
I think that's on hold too.
Yeah.
Right.
But what was the plans over there? Weren't they supposed to build a mall over
Right.
there?
It was related. It was going to be retail. It was going to be some office and a lot of residential, and clear out all of the auto repair area. And
It's a huge project.
Queens is also the home of Silvercup Studios and Kaufman Astoria Studios. What's happening with the studio business in Queens?
Well, the studio business is fabulous, but to David's point about land cost, we had been looking for years for more sites to build more studios, and the land just became unaffordable. So we're building a new facility right now, which will be ready June 1, in the Port Morris section of the Bronx. And again, it's price compression.
But it's besides price compression. An important thing is part of the reason. Didn't they change the rules on the taxes? Not for you, for Broadway plays, and for the.
They may or may not have. It has absolutely nothing to do with our business. Our business is there's a New York State tax credit for film and television production. And frankly, without that tax benefit program, just like 421A on the real estate side of life, you wouldn't have this work.
No, they
in New York.
expanded that to Broadway. In December, they expanded over there. Now, David, besides owning real estate, and now you're developing the first time in Queens, what are you building over there?
So directly next to the Suna family, we're building a 272-unit, very luxury condo finish, but it's a rental building. It's got 421A benefits.
80-20?
No, 100% market rate. It was the benefit of being grandfathered under the old code, and it's going to be very high-end, 38 stories, 272 rental units. Should be the top of the market, competing with some of the other.
So
buildings
here's
out
my
there.
question. What is the market? When we talk about this as a vacuum, people want to get an idea. Manhattan today, rentals, if it's, some of them could be $80 to $110 for the highest, okay? What are you getting at the Helena?
At the Helena, we get some rents in the 80s, many of them are in the 70s, and some in the high 60s.
So let's use this as an example. What are you going to projecting in Waverly for rents in Brooklyn?
In Brooklyn, 60.
60. So what are the residential rents are currently in Queens, and what do you see them as?
The newest buildings that have just been built, the QLIC by Worldwide and the Rockrose product and other buildings that are literally just up within the last 2 years are all in the mid to high 50s. Some of them on the studios are approaching $60, $62 a foot we're seeing on the market numbers. We are projecting we'll be done in about a year and change. We're projecting in the high 50s, low 60s.
And you?
And we're projecting in the low 40s at Hallett's Point.
So, if you're talking about a low-cost alternative, low 40s for a brand new property is as they would say, is a great bargain.
Absolutely, and it's going to have it's going to be very, very good finishes, and it's going to be a great spot to live with many of the amenities that you would have in a luxury building.
And your property?
Same. Similar for Astoria, and the rents that David mentioned are similar for Long Island City.
Now, certain parts of Queens, Regal Park, where you're building, Elmhurst, you have some of the highest rents and the most successful retail malls in the country over there, Queens Plaza and the others. One of the deficiencies right now in an area which is Long Island City and also on Hallett's Point and partially in Astoria is the lack of full service. First of all, Waldbaum's went out of business, Pathmark went out of business. Retail has to come. Retail and schools are important. What's happening with regard to that in Queens today?
Sure. You're seeing new restaurants opening up all the time. Chipotle just signed a lease around the corner from our site on Jackson Avenue. Food Cellar just opened up a beautiful new supermarket in the Rockrose building right at Court Square. You are seeing 20,000 new units being built. That's not going to be unheeded by even the slow, boring national retail companies that are out there that are so slow to move. Finally, I think they're getting.
So you're saying the local retailers are doing business. Now, I know when you built.
No. Actually, he's not saying that exactly. People are starting to come in retail-wise, both in the restaurants and what have you, and you are getting some of the national chains.
Because of the density.
Yeah, but retailers always wait.
Right.
They're happier paying a higher rent as long as they're moving into a market that exists. So they're waiting for people to finish their projects, move in, have the density, and then they'll pay a higher price.
These real estate directors walk around and they see 20 huge cranes all over the place, and we point out to them, I chair the bid, I walk around with them, and I said, look at all this. And they're like, that's great, but I need to have a clicker, a guy on the sidewalk clicking bodies. I want bodies. I don't want cranes. Cranes could mean empty buildings in 5 years. I want people living here on the ground.
Right.
And that's what they're waiting for.
Now, in the projects that you're building, all of you, especially I'm asking Josh because you're talking Elmhurst and Regal Park, Do you have a large number of retail components?
The Rego Center's a block away from the property, and Vornado also just built a brand new building there.
Right, called the Alexander on top
Yeah,
of
they
there.
did very well there. I think they got around mid-40s a foot kind of rents. And then Queens Center Mall, and I think they have 1,000 a foot kind of sales. So, really one of the most successful retail corridors in general.
Now, what about more the office space? Do you see more conversions in Queens of some of the buildings to
Well,
the
actually,
industrial buildings to more?
Sure.
I would say, if I may,
Go ahead.
the answer is yes, but only up to a certain point because we have very limited inventory of reasonable buildings to convert into these kinds of creative office spaces. So I think what you are going to see is people starting to build new product for new folks, that are going to, and putting even the REIT benefits aside for the moment, but that the rents, commercial rents, are going to be somewhere maybe between 50 and 60% of what it would comparably be in Manhattan. And they're moving into buildings that are really designed for this new economy. All right, so that they have HVAC systems and ceiling heights and the other kinds of amenities that the new economy techie kinds of folks are looking for.
I'll give you a very good example. One of my dear friends is in the catering business, and his property, he's out, lived the space. In addition, his lease was up, and the landlord wants to build condos on Christie Street, and he was looking for space. And originally, he was thinking of the Bronx, and I said to him, go to Long Island City. And fortunately, he has gone to Long Island City. He feels that he's got the best bargain over there. He's been able to accomplish what he needs, and the convenience of having the bridge, the tunnel, is really very valuable over there, and even the ferry, for certain other things over there. Part of the way you're going to be doing things are going to be tied into a ferry, right?
That's right. We are hoping that ferry will open next year at the southern tip of Hallett's Point, and that ferry would help our residents to get to Manhattan and other places on the Queens and Brooklyn waterfront. And if I could just add to your earlier point about retail, we will have a 20,000 square foot space in our first building where we would have a supermarket, and we're in discussions right now with some supermarket chains for taking that space.
Now, there are parts of Queens that we haven't discussed. One of them, which I think is very valuable, is the discussion of Queens near Aqueduct. You have a large space over there. Is there anything happening, especially since you're so involved with the borough of Queens?
Near Aqueduct, I have heard, casino potential, but I haven't really. We're
What
not on top of that.
about housing potential? I mean, you always look at opportunistic ideas of where the next market could be.
I don't know about that, but Jamaica seems to be really, on fire. I was just with a large developer, and they were basically saying, look, they're building a class kind of multifamily building. They think they're getting $35 a foot rents there. They're going to build something that doesn't exist. You're not necessarily going to comp it to it, but at the same time, there's great transportation, and they believe in that.
No, I think the point that you just made about Jamaica is really valuable. I mean, all of the Long Island Railroad, 90% of them stop in Jamaica. It's the hub of everything over there. It's also the hub of where the air train is to JFK Airport. So, it's just, and Jamaica 40, 50 years ago was a retail destination. It was the key retail destination. Jamaica has, in a similar manner of Long Island City, it has the transportation up to the area to provide that. So it's a market.
It's soon going to have the connection to Grand Central. So the Long Island Railroad connection to
Right.
Grand Central is going to go kind of spurring through Jamaica. So that'll be a big plus. But it's still, if you look at, kind of ground zero of Times Square and you're kind of going out in these concentric circles, Long Island City is so close. Astoria a little further away, Hallett's Point, but as you get out to Jamaica, you're looking at a kind of an incrementally longer commute to get back to Midtown. If you're living and working in Queens, absolutely, but to get back to Midtown a little harder.
If you buy, let's say, in Regal Park or Kew Gardens, you can still get a true affordable condominium in an older building over there in the market. It's much less expensive than certain parts of Brooklyn and definitely in Manhattan. You're involved right now for Rebney for Queens. What's your new role?
running the commercial brokerage and owner division of Queens.
So what's happening in that area, in that aspect of the business?
We've just started. This is our first year. We're going around to a lot of it's commercial, so the residential is a separate committee. But we're going to some of the repurposing of old buildings. So Jamestown had us at the Fauci building. Atlas had us at the factory building. We're going to Standard Motors building, the Center building. These are all these million.
Let's
square
talk
foot
about these
great
buildings, okay? Because a lot of them have been repurposed, as you said. And one of the big subjects, which I don't know if the Durst organization has it in New York, but it's definitely a subject that people are talking about, is the co-working situation. What are we seeing in co-working in Queens, and what's your discussion about co-working in general?
We do lease space to arguably the biggest co-work space provider, WeWork, and we're also in discussions with some other co-working space. So we think it's so far so good. They're a good tenant, and I could definitely see it working in Queens as well.
Sure. WeWork is in coming to Astoria. The Emmis building is bringing
WeWork
WeWork.
going there?
Square building.
They are
Which
coming.
The Studio Square building.
Oh, Studio Square.
They're coming to Long Island City. They were talking to one of our buildings about it. Regus is in Long Island City. So again, everything.
But there are also other co-working companies in Long Island City.
Well,
Right.
Regis,
Green
it's called like,
Spaces.
Spaces. And then
Green Desk.
Yeah.
And
Now, what also is happening in Queens, and I said this prior to the show, is the inordinate amount of hotels opening up in Queens.
Sure, you have about 25 hotels that are there. You have another 22 on the way we talked about. Again, it's the same the further you get out from Times Square. If you go to Marriott.com and you're coming from Kansas or Russia or wherever it is, you want to be at a place, you can't afford the Marriott Marquis at $550 a night. But boy, within a mile of Times Square, look at how many other opportunities I have. So a Marriott Courtyard is being built on Queens Plaza, Hilton Garden Inn on Queens Plaza. These are great opportunities to people. It's $150 to $175 a night to be in a Marriott branded product right on Queens Plaza, one subway stop away from Bloomingdale's. They're going to be killing it on Queens
Now,
Plaza.
didn't you finance a hotel?
Yeah,
in Queens?
the Paper Factory, which was a really amazing conversion from an industrial building to a hotel. I think they're doing pretty well right now. Again, it's a value proposition, and that's more of like a cooler hotel, like the White
Right, that's
Hotel
more of
in
the,
Long
boutique,
Island
right?
City.
Boutique hotel.
Yeah.
It's the true boutique as opposed to the limited service hotels, which a good portion of Queens has, the limited service and the accessibility.
The one difference I would say is in Williamsburg, people want to be in the hotel just because it's a cool place. In Long Island City, it's a pure value play, as at least the way I see it today.
So if we came back to the show a year from now, how many new residential apartments are going to be opening over the next couple of years in Queens?
20,000 are being built. I would say within a year, 5,000 are up, and 15,000 are well on their way.
And the land prices have gone up how much?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
we
boy.
paid about $75 a foot for ours 3 years ago.
And it's
It
$300 a foot
doubled,
today?
and then it tripled. So we're close to $300 a foot depending on the site.
So I think in summation, there's a lot of things happening in Queens. The market is good. There's opportunities, especially, $40 a foot that, in Hallett's Point, $52, $55 for condominium developments, not condominium type
Quality.
okay? No question that there's always Suna's project and Silver Cup, and I think that everything looks, I don't have my Apple, but it does look a little shiny to me. And I'd like to thank Josh, David, Kamini, Alexander, Alan, and see you next week. Thank you.